All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. My name is Chris Spear, and as I mentioned in the intro there, I'm thrilled to be your guide on this journey into the wild. So whether you're a seasoned adventurer or you're just starting your exploration of the great outdoors, this podcast is designed to provide you with knowledge and skills and some tips and tricks and stuff like that so you can do better in your primitive camping trips and bushcraft trips and stuff like that. So in this podcast series, we're going to be diving deep into my book, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft. And basically, we're going to go like almost page by page through the whole book and just break it down. So this book is available online at all the major retailers and stuff like that. You don't have to have the book to follow along, but it just gives you better context if you do and treat it more like a textbook type deal. But each episode is going to be covered with different topics, from essential gear, first aid, advanced bushcraft techniques, and cooking methods and stuff like that. My goal with this is to equip individuals with practical tips and insights that will enhance your outdoor experience and help you reconnect with nature. But before we dive in, get into the specifics and everything, I'll give you a little background about me. My name is Chris Spear. I started Spear Outdoors, which is an online community, tips, tricks, and hacks. I do all kinds of videos on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel with over 70,000 subscribers. I got a Facebook page with 36,000 followers. I got a TikTok account with 500,000 followers. We got a Primitive Camping and Bushcraft group on Facebook with 6,200 followers or more. So at the time of recording this, but what I'm wanting to do is grow that community and get start the conversation, start the debate. I'm wanting to look into getting you guys more conscious about, asking questions about camping and, stuff like that, and get everybody involved into the conversation, not just me. I'm wanting to get a bunch of people together and a bunch of people grouped together to start communicating about it and just find a good place, as they say, a safe place to talk about tough topics and stuff like that. And a little more about me. I'm a retired military medic. I was served in the United States Air Force and retired from there. Most of my career, I spent training new medics on how to be medics. I spent a lot of my time as the 911 dispatch and emergency operations. I spent a lot of time on ambulance operations, and so I knew first aid and I knew EMT like the back of my hand. So everything to deal with ambulance operations, stuff like that, I was the go-to guy. And then I spent several years in anesthesia, helping the anesthesia personnel whenever people come in for surgery. So there was one point that I could start an IV in a mosquito. But anyway, over the years, I've learned a lot about primitive camping and bushcraft, and a lot of this is just life experiences. Like, I know a lot of this stuff seems to be just not regurgitated, and I don't want to say regurgitated because I didn't copy anybody. But the thing about this is that it is step by step. It's given. You have to be able to do this in order to do this. In order to filter your water, you got to have something to filter it with. The obvious thing is that if you're boiling water, that is the easiest way to disinfect your water to where you can drink it. So, but a lot of it is just common sense. A lot of this book is common sense. That was the word I was looking for. But primitive camping and bushcraft aren't just about surviving in the wild. Primitive camping is more of a, allowing you to bring more modern conveniences with you on your hiking trip or camping trip or your overnight stay in the woods. When a lot of people talk about primitive camping, the first thing that comes to their mind is pulling their camper or their travel trailer up to a KOA or, a little state park or something like that, and hooking up to the electricity and the water and having a little fire and a fire ring, and that's it, But my idea of primitive camping is getting away from all those scenarios and just getting out there by yourself or with a partner or a friend or something like that. And just heading through the woods, finding a place and setting up camp. Depending on what you brought in your bag, you're going to depend on the amount of food that you brought. You might have to source your own food, depending if you brought enough with you to last the amount of days that you're going to be. A lot of times whenever I load my backpack, I bring a couple of days worth of food, and I know that I'm going to have to source my own food while I'm out there. So fishing, foraging, hunting, whatever methods that you need to get your food. So, but primitive camping and bushcraft, they're not just about surviving in the wild. It's really about thriving and finding joy in the simplicity of nature. And so with this podcast, we're gonna make it a comprehensive guide to mastering these skills, and we're going to use this book to walk us through and just have fun on your weekend trip or longer experiences in the woods. So throughout this series, I'm going to share some personal stories and some lessons that I learned and practical advice. Each episode will be packed with all kinds of information and tips. And so whether you listen at home in your car or you're actually out at a camping place listening to this podcast, we'll be able to learn together, and you can learn as you go. And like I said, being in the Facebook group, I realize a lot of folks don't have Facebook. So that's why I'm posting this on the podcasting platform. So if you're listening on a podcasting platform, you like what you hear, go ahead and follow. If you like Facebook, go ahead and sign up for the Facebook group and join the 6,000 members in there. And let's make a community that frequently talks about primitive camping and bushcraft and stuff like that. So what you can expect from this podcast series, and I'm going to go ahead and let you know up front that we're going to talk about a bunch of different topics, and we're going to break down everything. Some of the things won't be in the book that we're going to talk about. A lot of, pretty much the majority of everything that we discuss on this podcast are going to be covered in this book. Some days we might take a page and break it down and go real deep in it. Some days we might just, skip over a couple of things. But we're going to discuss what primitive camping is, and we're going to go over essential gear and tools. We're going to spend several days on fire starting techniques. We're also going to go over shelter building, and we're going to do water purification, outdoor cooking. We're going to touch on first aid, wilderness first aid, and so much more. So in addition to practical tips and step-by-step instructions, I'll be sharing personal anecdotes and, stories and trips and stuff that I've taken in the military, out of the military, personal experiences that I've had in the woods and the great outdoors, and give you insights of all these years of my exploring the great outdoors and, different camping trips and stuff that I've been on. So let's see here. Now, for a more comprehensive understanding about these topics, you might want to check into the actual book itself. And this video is going to be the only one that I'm really heavily pushing the book after, this podcast episode. So after this, it's just going to be diving into the book. If you got it, you follow along. If you don't, you follow along. But they're about to release an electronic copy of the book. It's going to be downloadable, where you can purchase the electronic copy and save it to your hard drive or print it out or whatever. All right, so let's kick this thing off with what an overview of primitive camping is. Primitive camping is all about connecting with nature and living off the land, and with minimum modern conveniences. So what I like to do is I do bring some modern conveniences with me whenever I go on my camping trip. And I'm talking about like flashlights and a chair to sit in, stuff like that, something that makes you a little bit more comfortable. Another modern convenience would be an inflatable mattress if you sleep on the ground, which I typically do not. Now, I do sometimes, not all the time, but mainly with me, I just like to be in a hammock. Now, the hammock is the most, especially in South Mississippi where it's hot all the time, hammocks are amazing. At nighttime, it cools down and you stay cool and you have a place to sit, and hammocks are amazing. And pretty much you can use a hammock all year round down here in South Mississippi. And I realize in some places you're not, not that you're not allowed, but the weather may hinder that, and you'll have to get they have underquilts and stuff like that you can use to put around the hammock. But basically, primitive camping is a true test of self-reliance and resourcefulness, and it can be extremely rewarding. Let me give you what I put in here, what my definition of primitive camping is. When it comes to primitive camping, bushcraft, and survival, there really is no wrong approach, and you're not going to be wrong. There's no wrong way to do this stuff, and as long as you're thinking outside the box, you can find that there are several ways to accomplish a particular task. So you don't have to have the latest gear or the most expensive knife to have a great time. The main goal of primitive camping is to enjoy the company of the ones you were with, or reconnect with nature, clear your mind, and have a lot of fun. So, and I absolutely love the fact that primitive camping allows you to just head out into the woods and just reconnect with nature, and I keep saying reconnect, and a lot of us are not even disconnected with nature, but a lot of individuals out there may just be not connected with it at all, or they used to be when they were kids and they no longer are. But primitive camping is rooted in our ancient history, believe it or not. Men and women who inhabited our planet before us lived off the grid. I mean, literally, they didn't have a grid. And by default, they thrived using only what was available to them. They worked hard for their food, and they did it without modern day conveniences like electricity and running water, or a flushable toilet, or central air and heat. And I know to a lot of the younger generation this day and age, they couldn't imagine life without air conditioner. When I was a kid, I went to school, we didn't have air conditioners in the school. They just had a fan, a ceiling fan, and that was it. And it was hot. In South Mississippi, it gets 100 and something degrees in the middle of the summer. So, no, I did not have summer school. But one of my favorite experiences with primitive camping was a trip that I took in the interior of Alaska. And this has been a long time ago, but this really started my love with the great outdoors. I mean, I've been outdoors all my life. I've loved camping, hunting, fishing, all that good stuff that gets you excited about it. But one of my favorite experiences was, we loaded up, we loaded what we could fit in our back of our truck. We headed out into the middle of nowhere in Alaska, got as far as we could go, and then we backpacked into a camping spot. And I can remember sitting by, there was mountains. I forget the actual name of the place, but there was mountains on both sides. We were kind of in a valley type deal, and there was a glacier. And it was just so beautiful. And in the evening, in the middle of the summertime in Alaska, the only downfall is the mosquitoes. I mean, they were big enough to carry you off. It was crazy. But I can remember starting a fire with a ferro rod. I can remember eating dinner and setting up our little tent and hammock and everything. And it was just the most amazing time. And that's really what kickstarted my love with survival bushcraft and, primitive camping, especially the primitive camping aspect. So, but, I moved on from there. I started learning more and more. I started reading more and more books. And then I started putting my own experiences blended in with all these primitive camping aspects or survival and bushcraft. So the big thing, and I'm going to explain this in the next episode, is the differences between primitive camping. We're going to spend the whole episode talking about primitive camping, bushcraft, and survival, but I'll give you a little insight to what we're going to be talking about. But the big thing is that a lot of people are like, oh, it's survival. When you hit up with a backpack, no, that's not survival. That's not, survival is typically a 72-hour period when some kind of natural disaster, some kind of medical emergency, or some kind of weapon of mass destruction, or, stuff like that happens. Some kind of unnatural event or some weather event, something that causes you to have to seek safety, have to find civilization. You got lost in the woods, you had an accident, you rolled off the side, you got injured, something like that, rolled off the side of a hill or a mountain. That is a survival situation where you have to find your way back to civilization. And it could take you days to get back. It could take you weeks to get back, depending on your location or your injuries or stuff like that. But a 72-hour period is typically, once you get out of the danger of the situation, then it turns into bushcraft. You have to bushcraft your own utensils. You have to bushcraft your food. You have to find your own food. And so in essence, bushcraft and survival are more hand in hand. But once you get away from the 72-hour aspect of the situation, then it tends to go away from survival to bushcraft, and then from bushcraft to primitive camping, basically. The difference is that survival is an emergency, a 72-hour emergency, to where you're trying to find your way back to civilization or find your way back to help. But bushcraft is essentially you left civilization to find your way into the woods. And, same way with primitive camping. Primitive camping and bushcraft are extremely closely related. The only difference is you're going to bring a few more convenience items with you whenever you go on a primitive camping trip. And so that's the only difference. But other than that, they're closely related. So we're going to spend the whole episode next time talking about that. And this one, I just wanted to give you a little background about what we're going to be talking about, a little background about me, some of my experiences, stuff like that, and then just to introduce what we're doing. And once again, I'm going to reiterate it one more time that this podcast is going to be extremely closely knit with the Facebook group on Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, same name. It's going to follow along in the book Primitive Camping and Bushcraft. And then at the same time, all the videos are going to be posted to my subscribers on Facebook. So if you subscribe to Facebook, you can watch the videos of the podcast. And so it's all hand knit and everything's going to be interwoven together, all based around the book Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, a step-by-step guide to surviving and thriving in the great outdoors. So like I stated, in the next episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the concept of primitive camping. We're going to explore the benefits and challenges and how it differs from survival and bushcraft. We're also going to discuss the mindset of preparation, and that there needs to be a certain mindset or preparation needed to embark on a successful primitive camping trip, because you can get out there and last a day or two, and then you're going to realize, hey, this is not for me. I've I've been on camping trips before that I knew I was out there for 7 or 8 days, and I got to day 2, and it was just like, I'm ready to go home. But I kind of stuck it out, stuck with it, kept on going, and, made my way through it. But before we wrap up, I want to thank you for joining me on this adventure. I want to thank you for listening to me on the podcast platform that you're listening. And I want to thank all the subscribers for watching this video, if you're watching this video. And then all the people in the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft group, thank you for being members there. So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the Primitive Camping Bushcraft podcast. Leave a review. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comment section of the group what you think. And let me know in the comment section with you subscribers. So also you follow along on all the social media platforms. I should be throwing little nuggets out there promoting this and sending it to the group, the Facebook group. And then we're going to be doing some updates and some behind the scenes content. And also don't forget there's going to be an electronic copy of the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft book coming out here shortly. And so, hey, I appreciate you. I thank you. And we're going to wind this one down, and then we'll see you. I haven't decided how often I'm going to post, probably 1 or 2 a week, if not more. So I can't make it a daily thing because I still got other videos and stuff I got to film for all the other platforms, but we'll figure this out. I'll do a poll on in the group and find out what everybody else thinks, and we'll evaluate it from there. So until next time, guys, happy camping and God bless you. And I'll see you in the next video and the next podcast.